Socializing 82. I read a news article a while ago, which I wanted to briefly discuss. It mentioned how some young adults from certain communities ran away from their homes for the sake of what they believed was true love. Muslims should note that a major sign of true love is when one directs their beloved towards the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, which involves fulfilling His commands, refraining from His prohibitions, and facing destiny with patience according to the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This is because obedience leads to success and safety in both this world and in the hereafter. A person who does not desire safety and success for a person can never truly love them irrespective of what they claim or how they treat the other person. The same way a person becomes happy when their beloved obtains worldly success, like a job, they will also desire their beloved to obtain peace of mind and body in both worlds. If a person does not care about another obtaining safety and success, especially in respect to the next world, then they do not love them. A true lover could not bear knowing and seeing their beloved facing difficulties and punishment in this world or in the next. This is only avoidable through the sincere obedience of Allah, the Exalted. Therefore, they would always direct their beloved towards the obedience of Allah, the Exalted. If a person directs another towards their own selfish interest or the interest of others instead of the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, it is a clear sign that they do not truly love them. This applies to all relationships, such as friendships and relatives. Therefore, a Muslim should assess whether those in their life direct them towards Allah, the Exalted, or not. If they do, then it is a clear sign of their love for them. If they do not, then it is a clear sign that they do not truly love them. Chapter 43 Az-Zukhruf, verse 67.
Close friends that day will be enemies to each other, except for the righteous.
Socializing 83. I read a news article a while ago, which I wanted to briefly discuss. It reported on how a person is affected by a friend. There are countless examples in the world of how a person inspired their friend to take the wrong path in life, which caused them serious trouble, such as prison. One should not only be cautious of people who possess bad characteristics, as they will influence their friends in a negative way. This has been warned in a narration found in Sunan Abu Dawud, number 4833. But a Muslim should also be cautious over the people who seem to possess genuine love for them, especially those who do not possess Islamic knowledge. This is because the one who does not possess Islamic knowledge will sometimes advise their loved ones incorrectly, believing they have fulfilled and shown their love to their companion. For example, a wife may advise her tired husband to offer his obligatory prayer at home instead of at the mosque with congregation. Even though according to some scholars it is permissible to offer one's obligatory prayer at home, yet this advice will only take one away from one of the greatest traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This in turn will only take them further away from Allah, the Exalted. This wife may believe she has behaved in a loving way, even though she has not. This is why gaining Islamic knowledge is extremely important and a duty on all Muslims, according to a narration found in Sunan Ibn Majah, number 224. This is because some things may seem difficult outwardly, yet many blessings are contained within them. And many things may seem easy and even lawful, yet they only take one away from Allah, the Exalted. Therefore, a Muslim should be cautious and remain firm on the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, by fulfilling His commands, refraining from His prohibitions, and by facing destiny with patience according to the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and not get fooled by the advice a loved one gives them. They should not assume the advice will benefit them, just because it comes from a beloved companion. They must instead compare this advice to the teachings of Islam, and only act on it if Islam approves of it. If it does not approve of it, they must avoid acting on it, and kindly advise their companion the right course of action, according to the teachings of Islam. Socializing 84. I read a news article a while ago, which I wanted to briefly discuss. It reported on a person who desired to pursue a specific lawful occupation, and the difficulty she was receiving from others about her decision, especially from her relatives. It is important to understand that generally when one chooses a path which is different from the path of others, such as their relatives and friends, they will face criticism and resistance from them. In fact, The majority of criticism comes from a person's relatives. For example, when a Muslim decides to concentrate more on acting on the teachings of Islam, and if it is something their family have not pursued themselves, then they will face criticism from them. They will be labeled foolish and extreme by those who they believed would support them on their path. It is important for Muslims to remain steadfast on the lawful path they choose and trust in the help of Allah, the Exalted, through sincere obedience, which involves using the blessings one has been granted in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in order to overcome these difficulties. This is a common reaction from people, as when a person chooses a different path in life from others, it makes them feel as if their path is bad or evil, and this is the reason the person has chosen a different path. Even though the person does not believe this, but only chooses a different path believing it is better for them, yet they will still face criticism. It is the same reason all the holy prophets, peace be upon them, were criticized by their people, as they chose and passively invited others to a different better path. To conclude, as long as one's path in life is lawful, they should remain steadfast and not be deterred by the criticism of others. But this does not mean they should not try to improve their situation and character. It means they should not be deterred from pursuing their lawful choice, according to the teachings of Islam. Socializing 85. I read a news article a while ago, which I wanted to briefly discuss. It reported on interacting in a positive way with colleagues at work, in order to function as a team. It is important to understand that Islam does not demand Muslims to completely get along with all people. As people have been created differently, and possess different characteristics, it is not possible to get along with everyone. Because of a difference of mentalities, people will always disagree with others who possess a differently mentality. The only person who may be able to achieve this is a two-faced person who changes their behavior and attitude depending on who they are with. But even this person will eventually be exposed by Allah, the Exalted. Just because a person does not get along with others, it does not mean they dislike them. It only means they differ in their attitudes and behavior. Just like a school child who is not friends with every child in their class. It does not mean they dislike those who they are not friends with. Therefore, a Muslim should not become sad if they do not get along with everyone, even their own relatives. But it is a duty on all Muslims to treat all others with respect and fulfill the rights of each person, even if they do not get along with them, as this is an important characteristic of a Muslim. This is what Islam commands, and if one acts in this way with everyone, then they will find their interactions with people peaceful and beneficial in both worlds despite their differences. Socializing 86. I read a news article a while ago, which I wanted to briefly discuss. It reported on a great problem society is facing, namely, the spread of fake news within society. One can imagine how difficult this is to control, especially in this time of social media. It is therefore important for Muslims to act on the following verse of the Holy Quran, and not spread information to others, even if they believe they are benefiting others by doing so, without verifying the information first. Meaning, they should ensure it comes from a reliable source and is accurate. Chapter 49 Al-Hujurat, verse 6.
O you who have believed, if there comes to you a disobedient one with information, investigate, lest you harm a people out of ignorance and become, over what you have done, regretful.
Even though this verse indicates a wicked person spreading news, it can still apply to all people which share information with others. As mentioned in this verse, a person may believe they are helping others, but by spreading unverified information they might harm others instead, such as emotional harm. Unfortunately, many Muslims are heedless to this, and have a habit of simply forwarding information through text messages and social media applications without verifying it. In cases where the information is connected to religious matters, it is even more important to verify the information before spreading it, as one may get punished for the actions of others based on the incorrect information they provided them. This has been indicated in a narration found in Sahih Muslim, number 2351. In addition, with everything that is going on in the world and how it is affecting Muslims, it is even more important to verify information, as warning others over things which did not happen only creates distress in society and furthers the rift between Muslims and other communities. This contradicts Islamic teachings. A Muslim needs to understand that Allah, the Exalted, will not question why they did not share unverified information with others on Judgment Day. But He will certainly question them if they do share information with others, whether it is verified or not. Therefore, an intelligent Muslim will only share verified information, and anything which is not verified, they will leave, knowing they will not be held accountable for it. Socializing 87. I read a news article a while ago, which I wanted to briefly discuss. It reported on a mother who discussed how her son's behavior towards her changed after he got married. He neglected his mother, and rarely contacted her after he moved away with his wife. But this mother learnt to live with what happened, and claimed to understand that people come and go. The important lesson to learn from this is that when a Muslim is blessed with a relationship, such as a child or a sibling, they should understand the true purpose of that relationship and act accordingly. In each case, they should learn and fulfill their responsibilities towards them according to the teachings of Islam to the best of their ability. But more importantly, do all this for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, as He is the one who has commanded them to fulfill the rights of the people in their lives. If one genuinely acts for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, they will never expect nor demand anything from people. They will not overly rejoice when people do things for them, such as showing gratitude, nor will they grieve if they neglect them. As they fulfilled the rights of the person for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, they only seek reward from Allah, the Exalted, not people. This would prevent a person becoming sad or depressed if their relative or friend neglected them after years of helping them. Unfortunately, many Muslims form relationships with the wrong intention. They get married and have children for the sake of receiving something back from their spouse and children. In most cases, especially in this day and age, they will be left disappointed if they adopt this attitude. It is important for each Muslim to correct their intention and connect with people and forge relationships for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, and therefore only seek benefit and reward from Him. Whoever acts in this manner proves that they have put their trust in Allah, Exalted. The one who puts their trust in Allah, the Exalted, will not be let down in this world or the next. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 3.
And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him.
Whoever adopts the incorrect intention and forms relationships for the sake of gaining a return from people, have put their trust in people. And whoever relies and puts their trust in people will be let down, sooner or later. Chapter 22 Al-Hajj, verse 73.
Weak indeed are the seeker and the sought.
This discussion does not mean a Muslim should not be grateful to others for what they have done for them, as this is a part of thanking Allah, the Exalted, according to a narration found in Jami' at-Tirmizi, number 1954. But it means if someone does not appreciate a Muslim for what they have done, they should not be bothered by it, as they should be hoping for a return and reward from Allah, the Exalted, not people. Socializing 88. I read a news article a while ago, which I wanted to briefly discuss. It mentioned the changes which have occurred over time within culture and society. If one studies the lives of the righteous predecessors, they will observe many differences between them and the Muslims of today. One big difference is the way people respond to those who command good and forbid evil, which is a duty on all Muslims according to their knowledge. It is important for Muslims to understand this behavioral change, as it can prevent many arguments and enmity growing between people. In the past, Muslims loved those who advised them to do good and warned them against bad things. In fact, they did not consider someone a sincere friend until they behaved in this manner with them. They actually even loved those who advised them on things which were not considered sins in Islam, but were only disliked things. This is a major change which has occurred. Many Muslims nowadays dislike being constructively criticized in this manner. In cases where unlawful things are occurring, it is a duty on a Muslim to gently and kindly warn against it according to the teachings of Islam, even if others dislike their behavior. But in most cases, where others are not committing a sin but are merely committing things which are disliked, it is better for a Muslim not to criticize them over them, as it will only lead to enmity, arguments, and it can even cause one to give up advising others because of the negative response they receive. The exception is when the one being advised likes being advised in such a manner. Therefore, a Muslim who desires to fulfill their duty and avoid arguments with others should command good and warn against the unlawful, but leave aside things which do not fall within these two categories. Socializing 89. I read a news article a while ago, which I wanted to briefly discuss. It reported on the nightlife culture found in different societies. A narration found in Sunan ibn Majah, number 701, advises that the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, disliked sleeping before performing the late evening obligatory prayer, and disliked engaging in conversation after performing it. Even though it is not prohibited to sleep before the late evening obligatory prayer, it is far better and safer to offer it first, as sleeping before it could cause one to sleep past its time. In addition, even if one manages to wake up, the laziness caused by sleep may prevent them from fully concentrating in it, thereby reducing their reward. Finally, it is best to offer it and all the rest of the obligatory prayers as soon as they happen, as this is one of the most beloved righteous deeds to Allah, the Exalted, according to a narration found in Sunan an-Nasai, number 612. And behaving in this manner is a sign of a true believer. Chapter 4 An-Nisa, verse 103.
Indeed, prayer has been decreed upon the believers a decree of specified times.
Unfortunately, it has become a widely practiced custom, especially amongst Asian Muslims, to hold worldly gatherings and conversations after they have performed the obligatory late evening prayer. Even though this is not prohibited, yet it often leads to vain speech, which is a waste of time. This will be a great regret for them on Judgment Day, especially when they observe the reward given to those who utilize their resources correctly. It often leads to sins such as gossiping, backbiting, and slandering. And even if one is protected from this, staying up in the evening unnecessarily will only make them more tired, thereby making it harder for them to wake up and perform the obligatory dawn prayer correctly. This fatigue is often the reason why many Muslims do not offer the obligatory dawn prayer at the mosque with congregation. This fatigue can also prevent one from offering the night voluntary prayer, which is the best prayer after the obligatory prayers, according to a narration found in Sunan an-Nasai, number 1614. And the voluntary night prayer is a firmly established tradition of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Socializing 90. Muslims must remain steadfast against their enemies, namely, the devil, their inner devil, and those who invite them towards the disobedience of Allah, the Exalted. A Muslim should not turn their back on the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, whenever they are tempted by these enemies. They should instead remain steadfast on the obedience to Allah, the Exalted, which involves fulfilling His commands, refraining from His prohibitions, and facing destiny with patience. This is achieved by avoiding the places, things and people who invite and tempt them towards sins and the disobedience of Allah, the Exalted. Avoiding the traps of the devil is only achieved through gaining and acting on Islamic knowledge. The same way traps on a path are only avoided by possessing knowledge of them. Similarly, Islamic knowledge is required to avoid the traps of the devil. For example, a Muslim might spend much time reciting the Holy Quran, but because of their ignorance, they might destroy their righteous deeds without realizing it through sins such as backbiting. A Muslim is bound to face these attacks, so they should therefore prepare for them through the sincere obedience of Allah, the Exalted, and in return gain an uncountable reward. Allah, the Exalted, has guaranteed right guidance for those who struggle in this way for His sake. Chapter 29 Al-Ankabut, verse 69.
And those who strive for us, we will surely guide them to our ways.
Whereas facing these attacks with ignorance and disobedience will only lead one to difficulties and disgrace in both worlds. The same way a soldier that possesses no weapons to defend themselves would be defeated. An ignorant Muslim will have no weapon to defend themselves when facing these attacks, which will result in their defeat. Whereas, the knowledgeable Muslim is provided with the most powerful weapon which cannot be overcome or beaten, namely, sincere obedience of Allah, the Exalted. This is only achieved through sincerely gaining and acting on Islamic knowledge. Socializing 91. In a narration found in Jami' at-Tirmidhi, number 2501, The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, declared that whoever is silent is saved. This means the one who is silent from vain or evil speech and only speaks good words will be saved by Allah, the Exalted, in both worlds. This is important to understand, as the main reason people will enter hell is because of their speech. This has been warned in a narration found in Jami' at-Tirmidhi, number 2616. In fact, it only takes a single evil word to cause a person to plunge into hell on Judgment Day. This has been confirmed in a narration found in Jami' at-Tirmidhi, number 2314. Speech can be of three types. The first is evil speech, which should be avoided at all costs. The second is vain speech, which only causes one to waste time, which in turn will lead to a great regret on Judgment Day. In addition, the first step of sinful speech is often vain speech. So it is safer to avoid this type of speech. The final type is good speech, which should always be adopted. Based on these aspects, 2/3 of speech should be removed from one's life. In addition, the one who speaks too much will only reflect on their actions and the hereafter a little, as this requires silence. This will prevent one from assessing their deeds, which inspires one to perform more righteous deeds and sincerely repent from their sins. This person will then be prevented from changing for the better. Speaking too much will cause one to get involved in things which do not concern them. This always leads to trouble for oneself and others, such as fractured and broken relationships. In addition, the one who fails to avoid the things which do not concern them will not make their Islam excellent. This has been warned in a narration found in Jami' at-Tirmidhi, number 2317. Salvation lies in striving to make one's faith excellent. Speaking too much also leads to regular arguments and disagreements, which only causes stress for the speaker and others. Whereas, avoiding vain and evil speech will prevent this, thereby ensuring the person obtains peace. Finally, those who speak too much often discuss things which are entertaining and fun. This will cause them to adopt a mentality whereby they dislike discussing or listening to serious issues, such as death and the hereafter. This will prevent them from preparing adequately for the hereafter, which will lead to a great regret and a potential punishment. All of this can be avoided if one simply remains silent from sinful and vain speech and instead only speaks good words. Therefore, the one who is silent in this way will be saved from trouble in this world and from punishment in the next world. Socializing 92. In a narration found in Sahih Bukhari, number 6116, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, advised a person not to get angry. In reality, this narration does not mean a person should never get angry, as anger is an innate characteristic which is even found in the Holy Prophets, peace be upon them. In fact, in some rare cases, anger can be useful, such as in self-defense. This narration actually means that a person should control their anger so it does not lead them to the disobedience of Allah, the Exalted, something demonstrated perfectly by the Holy Prophets, peace be upon them. In addition, this narration shows that anger can lead to many evils and controlling it leads to much good. Firstly, this advice is a command to adopt all the good characteristics which will encourage one to control their anger, such as patience. This narration also indicates that a person should not act according to their anger. Instead, they should struggle with themselves in order to control it so that it does not lead them to sins. Controlling anger for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, is a great deed and leads to divine love. Chapter 3 Ali Imran, verse 134.
Those who restrain anger and who pardon the people, and Allah loves the doers of good.
There are many teachings within Islam which encourage Muslims to control their anger. For example, as anger is linked to and inspired by the devil, a narration found in Sahih Bukhari, number 3282, advises that an angry person should seek refuge in Allah, the Exalted, from the devil. An angered Muslim has been advised in a narration found in Jami' at-Tirmidhi, number 2191, to cling to the ground. This could mean that they should prostrate on the earth until they calm down. In fact, the more one takes an inactive body position, the less chance they will lash out in anger. This has been indicated in a narration found in Sunan Abu Dawud, number 4782. Acting on this advice allows one to imprison their anger within themselves until it passes, so that it does not negatively affect others. A Muslim who is angered should follow the advice given in the narration found in Sunan Abu Dawud, number 4784. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, advised the angry Muslim to perform ablution. This is because water counters the innate characteristic of anger, namely heat. If one then offers prayer, this would help them control their anger further and lead to a great reward. The advice discussed so far helps an angry Muslim to control their physical actions. In order to control one's speech, it is best to refrain from speaking when angered. Unfortunately, words can often have more of a lasting effect on others than physical actions. Countless relationships have been fractured and broken because of words spoken in anger. This behavior often leads to other sins and crimes as well. It is important for a Muslim to note the narration found in Sunan Ibn Majah, number 3970, which warns that it only takes a single evil word to cause a person to plunge into hell on Judgment Day. Controlling anger is a great virtue, and the one who masters this has been described by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, as a strong person in a narration found in Sahih Bukhari, number 6114. In fact, the one who swallows their anger for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, meaning they do not commit a sin because of their anger, will have their heart filled with peace and true faith. This has been advised in a narration found in Sunan Abu Dawud, number 4778. This is a characteristic of the sound heart which is mentioned in the Holy Quran. It is the only heart which will be granted safety on the Day of Judgment. Chapter 26 Ash-Shu'ara, verses 88 to 89.
The day when there will not benefit anyone wealth or children, but only one who comes to Allah with a sound heart.
As mentioned earlier, anger within limits can be useful. It should be used for repelling harm to oneself, faith and possessions, which if done correctly, according to the teachings of Islam, is counted as anger for the sake of Allah, the Exalted. This was the state of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who was never angered for the sake of his own desires. He only became angry for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, which is confirmed in a narration found in Sahih Muslim, number 6050. The character of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was the Holy Quran, which has been advised in a narration found in Sahih Muslim, number 1739. This means he would be pleased with what it was pleased with, and angered with what it was angered with. In addition, hating for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, is an aspect of perfecting one's faith. This has been advised in a narration found in Sunan Abu Dawud, number 4681. The root of hatred is anger. This makes it clear that Islam does not command one to abolish anger. As this is not really possible to achieve, it instead teaches them to control it within the bounds of Islam. It is important to note that becoming angered only for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, is praiseworthy, but if this anger causes one to exceed the limits, then it becomes blameworthy. It is absolutely vital for one to control their anger according to the teachings of Islam, even when they are angered for the sake of Allah, the Exalted. A narration found in Sunan Abu Dawud, number 4901, warns of a worshipper who angrily claimed Allah, the Exalted, would not forgive a specific sinful person. As a result, this worshipper will be sent to hell, while the sinner will be forgiven on Judgment Day. The origins of evil consist of four things: failing to control one's desire, fear, evil appetites, and anger. Therefore, the one who accepts the advice of this narration will remove a quarter of evil from their character and life. To conclude, it is vital for Muslims to control their anger, so it does not cause them to act or speak in a way which will lead them to a great regret in both this world and the next. Socializing 93. I had a thought which I wanted to share. It is commonly observed that when one decides to do a good deed which requires time, energy, and even wealth, they are often put off by others. The first hinderer is the devil, who tries hard to put one off from performing good deeds. The second hinderer is one's inner self, which is accustomed to laziness and greed. The final hinderer is other people. Unfortunately, many of these hinderers are often Muslims who possess weak faith. As their faith is weak, they fail to appreciate the greatness of performing even small good deeds. And their weak faith inclines them towards enjoying worldly pleasures, which directly clashes with doing good deeds. So these people often question why a Muslim is trying to do a good deed, especially those deeds which require time, energy, and wealth. For example, a Muslim might be determined to create a website which shares Islamic knowledge. Others will often put them off by belittling their plan, as they do not value the importance of good deeds. Those who are determined to give charity will be put off by others who possess weak faith. They will attempt to scare them into keeping hold of their wealth in case they face unforeseen financial difficulties. The examples are endless of how people, especially Muslims with weak faith, put off others from doing good deeds through belittling what they desire to do. In cases like this, a Muslim who desires to do something good must choose who they consult wisely. Just like a sick person only consults a doctor, or when someone having car troubles only consults a mechanic, a Muslim must only consult those who possess strong faith. This is the one who learns and acts on the teachings of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Only this person will appreciate the importance of small good deeds, and therefore encourage others to do them. One should not consult a person who does not possess Islamic knowledge, as they will only belittle their plan and ultimately put them off from it, even if their intention is not bad. This advice has been indicated in chapter 30 Rum, verse 60.
And let them not disquiet you who are not certain in faith.
Socializing 94. I had a thought which I wanted to share. It is strange how many people often label others as selfish, even though they are the ones being selfish. According to them, being selfish is when one chooses their own happiness while contradicting the choice, opinion, and happiness of someone else. This is not selfishness according to Islam, unless the rights of others are being violated in one's pursuit of their lawful worldly choice. One must understand that in a situation which directly involves them, such as choosing a spouse for themselves, then making a lawful choice on who to marry according to their own happiness is not selfishness, even if the opinion, choice, and happiness of others, such as relatives, are contradicted. In reality, the one who demands others to follow their opinion and happiness, even though the situation does not directly involve them, such as their relative choosing a spouse, is the selfish person. When a lawful situation directly involves a person, they should consider the opinions of others, but in no way is it selfish for them to choose what makes them happy, as long as the rights of others are not violated. It is an act of sincerity to others when one puts aside their opinion and choice in situations that does not directly involve them, and instead only considers the happiness of the people directly involved in the situation, such as the couple getting married. Whereas, to force one's opinions and choices on others in situations which do not directly involve them is selfish, as the happiness of the people directly involved in the situation is the most important thing, as long as it does not involve the disobedience of Allah, the Exalted. It is a shame how many people make others feel bad by accusing them of selfishness, even though they are the selfish ones. To conclude, as long as the disobedience of Allah, the Exalted, is avoided, which includes violating the rights of people, a Muslim should choose their choice, opinion, and happiness in the situations which directly involve them, as this is not behaving selfishly. Socializing 95. I had a thought which I wanted to share. People often care about and ask others whether they are a good person in respect to their relationship. For example, a mother will ask her child if they think she is a good mother. A person will ask their friend whether they think they are a good friend or not. Being someone society deems good in respect to their relationships should not be the main concern of a Muslim. Their main concern should be whether they are a good slave of Allah, the Exalted, or not. This question cannot be answered by society, culture, or fashion. It can only be answered when one compares their behavior to what is commanded and encouraged in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This is even more important to prioritize when one reaches elderly age, as their time on earth is running out swiftly. The issue with worrying about whether one is defined as good in their relationships with people, according to the opinion and standards set by people, culture, and fashion, is that these things are fickle and the opinions of people vary drastically. As a result, what one considers a good person in respect to their relationships, such as a good mother, another person will consider them a bad person in respect to that same relationship. For example, one son may consider their mother a good mother, whereas his sister may consider their mother a bad mother. This often occurs in society. As a result of this fickleness, one will never please people, and therefore they will not find comfort and peace in their opinions. In addition, the one who is always concerned about people, fashion and culture, and their opinions about them in respect to their relationships, will easily neglect their relationship with Allah, the Exalted, which may result in them becoming a bad slave. As Allah, the Exalted, alone controls everything in this world and in the next, the one who fails to become a good slave of Allah, the Exalted, will not find peace and success in either worlds, even if they strive hard to obtain the good opinions of people in respect to their worldly relationships. Finally, even if one obtains the good opinions of people, fashion and culture in respect to their relationships, it will not save them from the consequences of being a bad slave of Allah, the Exalted, on Judgment Day. Whereas, the one who focuses on being a good slave of Allah, the Exalted, will obtain peace of mind, as they will only be concerned with Him and His opinion of them, instead of the varied opinions of countless people. Pleasing one is easier and more satisfying than pleasing many. In addition, the one who tries to be a good slave of Allah, the Exalted, will inevitably become a good person in respect to their relationships with people, e.g. a good mother, friend, neighbor, etc., as fulfilling the rights of people is an important part of being a good slave of Allah, the Exalted. But the difference between this and the negative attitude of prioritizing the opinions of people is that this good slave of Allah, the Exalted, will fulfill the rights of people, but will not bother about the opinions of people in respect to them and their relationships. They will not care if people consider them bad in respect to their relationships, as most people's opinions are based on worldly standards. They will only care and live by the standards set by Allah, the Exalted. The one who lives like this will not be negatively affected by the bad opinions of people, fashion and culture, in this world or on Judgment Day. For example, a mother may believe her son is a terrible son, as she judges him based on worldly standards. But as he is a good slave of Allah, the Exalted, he fulfills the rights of his mother in this world, and her negative opinion of him will not affect him in this world or on Judgment Day, meaning he will be judged by Allah, the Exalted, as a good son. To conclude, peace of mind and success lies in prioritizing being a good slave of Allah, the Exalted, and only worrying about His opinion about them. Whereas, anxiety, stress and difficulties in both worlds lie in prioritizing the opinions of people in respect to their relationships. Socializing 96. I had a thought which I wanted to share. There is a common misconception which prevents a person from improving their character towards Allah, the Exalted, and the creation. People often comment that one should not judge others. Even though this is true to a certain extent, unfortunately, many people have completely twisted its meaning out of context in order to use it as an excuse to avoid improving their behavior. In reality, judging others is a vital part of every aspect of one's life. For example, a person judges others in order to decide whether to befriend them or not. One judges another in order to decide whether they would make a good spouse for them or not. A person judges a company before applying for a job there. An employer judges candidates in order to find the best one to join their team. A parent judges a range of tutors before hiring one for their child. A business owner will judge another business owner to determine whether to do business with them or not. The examples of judging others in respect to their behavior, character and actions are virtually limitless. So to claim one should not judge others at all is simply foolish, as one cannot live in this world without judging others. In respect to Islam, a Muslim must judge the actions of others, otherwise they cannot fulfill the duty of advising good and forbidding evil in society. Chapter 3 Ali Imran, verse 110.
You are the best nation produced as an example for mankind. You enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong, and believe in Allah.
According to the narration found in Sunan Abu Dawood, number 4681, a Muslim cannot perfect their faith without loving, hating, giving and withholding for the sake of Allah, the Exalted. How is this possible to achieve without judging others? The important duty of aiding others in good and avoiding helping others in bad things cannot be achieved without judging others and their actions. Chapter 5 Al-Ma'idah, verse 2.
And cooperate in righteousness and piety, but do not cooperate in sin and aggression.
Many of the examples listed earlier are encouraged by Islam, such as finding a suitable spouse and choosing suitable friends. None of these things can be fulfilled without judging others. Judging the actions of others according to the teachings of Islam in order to sincerely obey Allah, the Exalted, and to encourage others to do the same is a vital aspect of Islam. In this respect, the judgment of people may seem to come from a person, but in reality, it is the judgment of Allah, the Exalted. Something no Muslim must scorn or criticize. Judging the ultimate outcome of a person, whether Allah, the Exalted, will forgive them or not, or whether they will go to paradise or not, or judging their intention, are something which a Muslim is not allowed to do, as these things are beyond the knowledge of a Muslim and therefore they have no right to discuss or comment over them. To conclude, Muslims understand the correct concept of judging others so that they more readily accept the constructive criticism, which is based on the teachings of Islam, from others, so that they improve their character towards Allah, the Exalted, and the creation. Behaving in this manner is a vital part of right guidance and success in both worlds. Socializing 97. I had a thought which I wanted to share. One of the major reasons why the relationships of people become fractured and broken over time is due to ignorance. When one does not know the rights that they owe others, nor the rights people owe them, according to the teachings of Islam, people begin to expect and demand things they are not entitled to, and they fail to fulfill the rights that they owe others also. For example, parents often believe that their children owe them complete obedience and submission, meaning their child must agree with and do whatever their parent suggests. But this is simply not true in Islam. A child does have the right to make their own lawful choices in life, even if it contradicts the opinions of their parents, as long as they maintain good manners towards their parents. The major cause of divorce is when people demand things their spouse does not owe them. Siblings often become estranged as they believe their siblings should also support them in every situation without exception, and in ways pleasing to them. The examples are virtually endless. Ignorance of the rights one is owed and the rights they owe others encourages one to make up these standards according to their own desires, culture, and fashion. As the desires of people vary considerably, these fabricated standards are never fulfilled by people. This leads to bitterness between people, which over time leads to fractured and broken relationships. Muslims must avoid this outcome by learning and acting on the teachings of Islam, so that they know and fulfill the rights they owe others and know the rights people owe them. In addition, when one gains an ACTS on Islamic knowledge, it will encourage them to behave leniently with others, hoping that Allah, the Exalted, will act leniently with them. This leniency will prevent one from demanding their full rights from others, thereby making the lives of others easier, and reducing the risks of arguments. This leniency will also encourage one to let things go whenever they are wronged by others, so that they avoid pettiness. This leads to positivity and peace of mind, and prevents fractured and broken relationships. On the other hand, living according to one's own standards causes the opposite to occur. A person easily becomes petty over small issues. They become bitter and continue to hold onto grudges for decades. This leads to enmity, negativity, and a pessimistic attitude towards others. All these things prevent peace of mind and lead to fractured and broken relationships. Muslims must therefore ensure they have healthy relationships with others by learning and acting on Islamic knowledge, so that they know and fulfill the rights of people, and know the rights people owe them. Socializing 98. I had a thought which I wanted to share. It is important for people to avoid a major cause of fractured and broken relationships, namely, behaving negatively towards others when they have not committed a sin. This is often observed in families when one treats their relative in such a manner, whereby they often criticize, chide, and take digs at them in order to show their disapproval with their life choices and lifestyle. For example, a parent may take digs at their child who married someone they did not approve of, even though no sin was committed. People, especially elders, wrongfully believe that the people they behave negatively towards must love and respect them under all circumstances. But they fail to understand that people are not angels. If one is chided and criticized enough over things which are not sinful, a day will certainly come where the person dislikes speaking, seeing, or socializing with their relative, even if it is their own parent. This does not mean they do not love or respect them. It means that as people are not angels, The negative attitude creates negative feelings in a person's heart, which causes them to feel anxiety and stress whenever they have to deal with their relative who behaves negatively towards them. In order to avoid this stress and anxiety, they feel like avoiding their relative, even though they still love and respect them. For example, a person will avoid attending a family event because of this stress and anxiety, as they do not want to be subjected to negative behavior and comments. This is a very common reaction and consequence of treating others negatively, which is often seen within families. Muslims must not underestimate the long-term effect of treating others in a negative way, even if it only involves criticism and negative comments, as this can build up over time and cause their relationship to fracture and break. When others have not committed any sins, one should not behave negatively towards them, and instead accept the life choices they make. They should concentrate on fulfilling the rights of others by treating them how they themselves desire to be treated by others, which includes treating them in a positive way through one's words and actions, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Socializing 99. I had a thought which I wanted to share. In the modern world, one of the things which is heavily emphasized and given a lot of attention to in the lives of all people is socializing. Islam does not prohibit socializing with others and in fact commands Muslims to fulfill the rights of people, according to the teachings of Islam. Nonetheless, Islam always encourages people to understand the purpose of socializing. The main purpose is to aid one another in practically preparing for the hereafter. This involves aiding and encouraging one another to use the blessings they have been granted in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. This attitude leads to peace of mind in both worlds. Chapter 16 An-Nahl, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
On the other hand, society, social media, culture and fashion urges people to connect and socialize for the sake of worldly gain and enjoyment. This attitude defies the purpose of mankind being together on this earth. Socializing is not an end itself, it is only a means to an end. The ultimate end is to reach the day of judgment safely. The example of people being put together in this world for the aim of working together so that they prepare adequately for the hereafter is like how a team of strangers are put together by a company in order to work together to achieve a business goal, such as designing, manufacturing and advertising a product. If this team of people fail to remember the purpose of them being together, they will waste time on having fun and other social activities. This will result in them neglecting the purpose of being together, and thus their team would be labeled a failure. Similarly, if Muslims fail to understand and fulfill the main reason of socializing, then they too will fail to prepare adequately for the hereafter, as they were too busy socializing for worldly reasons. One is allowed to have lawful fun through socializing, but they should never behave as if that is the purpose of socializing. To conclude, people have been put together not to connect to each other as an end goal in itself, but to connect to each other so that they can aid each other to connect to Allah, the Exalted. One must never fail to differentiate between the two, otherwise they will completely miss the purpose of being placed together in this world. The companions, may Allah be pleased with them, understood this reality and therefore always connected and worked together in order to obey Allah, the Exalted, and as a result they spread justice and peace within society like no other group has ever achieved. Chapter 5 Al-Ma'idah, verse 2.
And cooperate in righteousness and piety, but do not cooperate in sin and aggression.
On the other hand, the one who forgets the purpose of socializing will only cause trouble for themselves in both worlds whenever they socialize with others. Chapter 43 Az-Zukhruf, verse 67.
Close friends that day will be enemies to each other, except for the righteous.
Socializing 100. I had a thought which I wanted to share. There is a powerful and misguiding mentality which has taken deep roots within the Muslim community, namely, being heavily influenced by the concept of what will people say about one's actions and choices. This mentality is often clothed under the guise of righteousness so that Muslims adopt it. They claim that if someone fails to care about what others say about them, then they will become shameless. In reality, Shamelessness is rooted in not caring about the divine vision, hearing, and judgment of Allah, the Exalted, not the criticism of people, as most of their criticism has no value in the sight of Islam, and one can easily hide their shameless behavior from people. The mentality of "what will people say" affects and corrupts many aspects of a person's life and faith. Arguably, the most dangerous effect it has is that a Muslim begins to perform good deeds for the sake of people, instead of for the sake of pleasing Allah, the Exalted. For example, a Muslim will only attend a relative's funeral simply to please their other relatives and not in order to please Allah, the Exalted. This Muslim will find that on Judgment Day, they will be told to gain their reward for their insincere good deeds from the people they acted for, which will not be possible to do. This has been confirmed in a narration found in Jami' at-Tirmidhi, number 3154. It is important to note that one should not behave to please people, as this is minor polytheism and also leads to the loss of reward, as Allah, the Exalted, is free from any partners. The mentality of "what will people say" also encourages Muslims to behave in ways that are disliked by Islam, such as being extravagant, wasteful, and excessive. For example, the majority of Muslim weddings aim to please the relatives of the married couple, as they fear the criticism of people. This causes them to spend lavishly and wastefully. This mentality can also encourage one to commit sins in order to protect oneself from the criticism of people. The mentality of "what will people say" also prevents Muslims from acting on the teachings of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, as their teachings often contradict the silly cultural beliefs and practices Muslims have adopted. Fear of being criticized by people prevents one from abandoning their cultural practices for the sake of the two sources of guidance. The mentality of "what will people say" also prevents Muslims from making the right choices which will lead to their happiness and well-being. For example, many Muslims remain in abusive marriages simply out of fear of the criticism of people, especially their relatives, if they get divorced. Finally, the mentality of "what will people say" prevents one from making good lawful choices as they fear the criticism of people. For example, Muslims from certain countries will not let their children marry Muslims from different countries as they fear the criticism of their relatives, even though the marriage proposals are lawful and good. It is the duty of a Muslim to act in order to please Allah, the Exalted. They must fulfill the rights of people according to the teachings of Islam, but this does not mean they should act to please them. It means they must fulfill their rights according to the teachings of Islam, whether the people are pleased with them or not. Their pleasure, or lack of it, is irrelevant. The one who acts according to the pleasure of people will never find peace and happiness in this world, nor will they ever obtain the praise of people. Whereas, acting to please Allah, the Exalted, leads to peace and happiness in both worlds. Chapter 13 Ar-Ra'd, verse 28.
Unquestionably, by the remembrance of Allah do hearts find peace.
Socializing 101. I had a thought which I wanted to share. In the 9th year after the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, migrated to Medina, a delegation representing the non-Muslim tribe of Thaqif visited the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in order to accept Islam. Washi, the man who killed Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, may Allah be pleased with him, at the Battle of Uhud, joined this delegation in order to secure his safety and accept Islam at the hands of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. When he reached Medina, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, asked about what he had done to Hamza, may Allah be pleased with him, and accepted his testification of faith, but asked him if he could avoid unnecessarily meeting him in the future, as seeing him reminded the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, of the killing and mutilation of his uncle Hamza, may Allah be pleased with him. This has been discussed in a narration found in Sahih Bukhari, number 4072. Even though Washi's sins were forgiven, as he accepted Islam, yet the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, requested him to avoid meeting him unnecessarily. First of all, this indicates the human nature of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. He felt the same feelings that any other human would feel, such as anger and grief. In addition, this request was a great relief for the Muslim community, as it made things easier for the Muslims. If the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, behaved as if Washi had done nothing, then it would have forced all the Muslims to behave in this manner, as adopting the way of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is obligatory. Chapter 3 Ali Imran, verse 31.
Say, if you should love Allah, then follow me, so Allah will love you and forgive you your sins.
The vast majority of Muslims would not be able to deal with others in such a manner. Therefore, the request of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, made things easy for them. This corrects the false notion of forgiving and forgetting. This incident proves that humans are not computers who can erase memories from their minds. People are not expected to forget the actions of others. They are instead encouraged to forgive others for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, and continue to fulfill the rights of others. Chapter 24 and Nur, verse 22.
And let them pardon and overlook. Would you not like that Allah should forgive you?
This is why the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, has advised in a narration found in Sahih Bukhari, number 6133, that a believer does not get stung from the same hole twice. Meaning, a Muslim should forgive others and fulfill their rights, but they should not blindly trust others, especially when they have been wronged by them in the past. Ignoring the past actions of others may well encourage them to behave in the same way in the future. Therefore, Muslims must learn from this incident and learn to forgive others and strive to fulfill their rights, but they are not expected to forget the actions of others nor blindly trust them. Socializing 102. I had a thought which I wanted to share. Prior to Islam, women would themselves be counted as something which was inherited by others. Islam abolished this unjust practice and gave them rights which surpassed any other society. On a general note, before Islam, in the age of ignorance, it was common practice for women to be equated with articles of home use. They would be bought and sold like cattle. A woman had no rights in respect to marriage. Far from being entitled to some share in the inheritance from her relatives, she herself was treated as a piece of the inheritance like other household items. She was considered as something owned by men while she was allowed to own nothing. And she could only spend according to the wishes of a man. Whereas, the man could spend any wealth which should belong to her, like wages, according to his desires. She did not even have the right to question this method. Some groups from Europe even considered women not to be a human, and equated her with an animal. Women had no place in religion. They were considered unfit for worship. Some even declared women to possess no souls. It was considered completely normal for a father to kill his newborn or young daughter, as they were seen as a shame on the family. Some even believed that no act of justice would be taken against the one who killed a woman. Some customs even killed the wife of a dead husband, as she was not seen fit enough to live without him. Some even declared that the purpose of women was only to serve men. But Allah, the Exalted, through the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, taught man to respect all people, made justice and equity the law, and men were made responsible for fulfilling the rights of women parallel to their own rights on them. Women were made free and independent. She became the owner of her own life and property, just like men. No man can force a woman to marry someone. If she is forced to, without her consent, then it becomes her choice to continue the marriage or annul it. No man has a right to spend anything from what belongs to her, without her consent and approval. After the death of her husband or after divorce, she becomes independent and she cannot be compelled by anyone to do anything. She gets a share in the inheritance, like men, according to the responsibilities given to her by Allah, the Exalted. To spend on women and treat them well has been declared an act of worship by Allah, the Exalted. All these rights and more have been given to women by none other than Allah, the Exalted. It is strange how those who stand up for women's rights today criticize Islam, even though it gave women rights centuries earlier. Socializing 103. I had a thought which I wanted to share. I was pondering over how the human heart was created in such a way that it must have something in it. It can never be empty. Meaning, it must attach to and love something. This is quite obvious if one reflects on this point for a moment. Some people love other people, some love animals, some their career, and others love other things. But no matter how much a person loves something, eventually a day will come where they will have to say goodbye. Whether this is done voluntarily, for example, a person retiring from their career, or forcefully, such as death cutting one off from their beloved. It is the reason why some of those who separated from what they loved while they were alive, such as an athlete retiring from their sport, became bitter as their heart and mind continued being attached to their beloved thing, but their body could no longer keep up with it. They become bitter as their moment in the spotlight passes, and they are forced to move on from their love. This is a universal principle which applies to all irrespective of one's belief or social status. But the only love which strengthens with time and in death is the sincere love for Allah, the Exalted. There is no goodbye for the one who possesses this love, only anticipation for the destined meeting which is beyond words to describe. This love only strengthens with the passing of time, while all other bonds weaken and eventually break. Therefore, a Muslim should fulfill their duty and responsibilities in respect to the creation, but only truly love Allah, the Exalted, through sincere obedience to Him, which involves fulfilling His commands, refraining from His prohibitions, and by facing destiny with patience. The one who achieves this will never need to say goodbye. Chapter 89 Al-Fajr, verses 27 to 28.
To the righteous it will be said, O reassured soul, return to your Lord well pleased and pleasing to Him.
Socializing 104. I had a thought which I wanted to share. Muslims often claim that as they are very busy in their worldly activities, they find it difficult to do voluntary righteous deeds, especially those related to people, such as physically supporting someone. Even though Muslims should strive to perform as much voluntary righteous deeds as possible, as it will benefit them in both worlds, whereas their worldly activities will only benefit them in this world nonetheless, the least these Muslims should do is adopt a neutral mentality towards others. This means that if a Muslim cannot help others, they should not hinder them in their lawful and good activities. If they cannot make others happy, they should not make them sad. If they cannot make others laugh, they should not make them cry. This can be applied to countless scenarios. This is important to understand, as many Muslims might do good to others, such as provide them emotional support, but at the same time they destroy their good deeds by being negative towards people. It is important to note, if a Muslim is excessive in being negative towards others, it may cause them to be hurled into hell on Judgment Day. This is confirmed in a narration found in Sahih Muslim, number 6579. Having a neutral mentality is actually a good deed when done for the pleasure of Allah, the Exalted. This has been advised in a narration found in Sahih Muslim, number 250. To conclude, it is best to treat others in a positive way, which is a sign of a true believer, according to a narration found in Jami' at-Tirmidhi, number 2515. But if they cannot do this, the least they should do is treat others in a neutral way, as treating others in a negative way may well lead to one's destruction. Over 400 free ebooks, audiobooks, infographics, podcasts and blogs available on our website, www.shakepod.com.